Welcome to Beyond Rockets. Hope you're having a great day. My name is Clark Dunn and I'm your host. Get ready to enjoy some awesome conversations from Huntsville locals about cool work they are doing right here in the Rocket City. You can connect with us on social media at Beyond Rockets, and if you're interested in doing a podcast yourself, I'd love to hear from you. You can visit my website, beyondrockets.com today, or connect with me on LinkedIn at Clark Dunn. Sit back and enjoy this episode of Beyond Rockets. This episode is sponsored by Yellowhammer Brewing. Yellowhammer is a local craft brewery serving Huntsville for the past 14 years. They are known for their premium craft beers like their T-Minus and Rebellion, but what you might not know is they also offer spirits, wine, seltzers, and non-alcoholic drinks. Next time you stop by their location, try one of their seasonal cocktails made with the Gemini Bourbon or the Yellowhammer Vodka. Or try this year's big hit, Pineapple Punch Seltzer. You can find out more information about Yellowhammer Brewery by visiting their website, yellowhammerbrewery.com, or visiting their tap room located at Campus 805.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you today. There's a lot we're going to talk about. To get started, would you like to introduce yourself? And we'll begin there.
Sure. My name is Alka Chain, and I represent Vintage Cigar Lounge and Nitro Tails in Huntsville.
Yeah, and so we were talking about it before we got started, but you're a Huntsville native, been here your entire life, seen Huntsville grow. And your family's kind of been in the small business, restaurant business, and variety of other businesses here in Huntsville for a long time. Talk a little bit about some of those maybe first places that your dad had, even at Madison Square Mall and all of that.
Yeah, so I'm a native here. I was actually a mall rat in Madison Square Mall. Everyone knows Mark's Imports if you grew up in Huntsville. It was like the grungy, trendy, and hippie kind of store, and that's where I grew up. My dad had that store for almost 30 years.
Wow.
And it was sad to see Madison Square Mall just vanish.
Yeah, just gone.
Yeah. And, but, you know, the city needed change, and look what Mid-Cities brought in. And slowly moving from Madison Square Mall, we ended up in a new mall, which is Bridge Street,
Yeah.
which is not considered a mall.
And you've been there, I guess, 16 years now?
Over 16 years.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so your dad owned had multiple stores. What are some of the other things that y'all have had in town prior to the Vintage Cigar Lounge?
So we also had other businesses in Birmingham
Okay.
with the same scheme where it was retail clothing, grungy, hippie, posters, all of that stuff. It was basically a Hot Topic, a Spencer's, and a Journeys all put in one.
Okay.
And so we had like family businesses. I come from a family background. We always are in a family business environment. I'm the only child, so I kind of drew myself
Yeah.
to the family business, even though I escaped for such a long time.
Did you want to do it? Did you always have the desire to do the family business, or did you kind of try to get away from it and then you kind of got pulled back into it?
I ran away from it. Even though I was always part of the business, being an only child, like I said, like you're always helping your parents. It's not necessary and it's not required, but you kind of just feel like you owe it to your parents. So I was always helping them, and I lived in Atlanta. I lived in Manhattan. I did all those things in the corporate world. And I was like, this is great. I work 9 to 5. I have the weekends off. I can travel wherever.
No one's calling me after hours
No one's calling me after hours.
to put out a fire. I get to have that work-life balance.
Exactly. And that's what I really appreciated. I liked that in my early 20s and 30s. And I was like, this is fun. I really want to just do me, but still help the family once a month.
Yeah.
So I would fly down and still be part of the family business. And then I realized, I think almost 9.5 years ago, where I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to run away from the rat race now.
Okay.
And come down back to Huntsville and see what I can do with my parents. And that was the transition that we took for Vintage to be a bar instead of just a wine and a cigar shop.
Yeah. And so your background originally, you got your advertising marketing degree from Alabama. So is that sort of the work you were doing in New York and the Manhattan area prior to moving here?
Yeah, I actually ended up in sales. I've always been selling my entire life. I wanted to be an art director, but then sales just fell naturally into my lap because I'm always selling something. So I ended up just working at Sony TV and Dish Network, just doing sales.
Okay.
And still keeping the design background for myself and doing that for Mark's Imports, for Vintage Cigar Lounge. And it just kind of helped me stay fresh with the design background and also with ideas and marketing. And that's what drew me back here.
Yeah.
I wanted to rebrand the whole Vintage Cigar as a lounge, as a first cigar lounge in Huntsville, Alabama, and make it a premier spot for people to join.
Yeah.
And we were the first, and we're now competing with almost 10 plus others.
Yeah,
it's
become a very popular thing. I mean, I feel like in the last, and really it's been in the last maybe 3-4 years where it seems like there's just more and more. And I think has that, I mean, kind of looking at it in the last 2 or 3 years, has that education element of cigars further helped y'all's business to kind of educate people as people are coming in? Have you seen a higher level of education and a higher level of knowledge from the cigar world lately than you did maybe when you first opened, or even when you first started coming back here 9 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, people are still novice, but at the same time, when they're traveling, they're visiting different cigar lounges, different shops. They're being educated. So when they come in now, they're like, I'm looking for a particular brand, or I'm looking to pair this with this bourbon, so on and so forth. So it's definitely helped over the years, because when we first opened, no one knew about cigars, right? So we're like, come in, let's educate you.
No one knew what a cigar lounge was. It wasn't a thing. Like, and because I feel like, a lot of the people that maybe traveled here to Huntsville prior to y'all opening the first cigar lounge here had probably visited them in bigger cities. Like, if they travel a lot for work, they were visiting them if they were up near DC, or if they were in California, or if they were in Florida, wherever it might have been, but then never thinking that this is something that Huntsville could have. What was that initial, like when your dad first opened it and you first opened this family business? What was that initial response? Did it take a while for the business to kind of catch on, or did you see some success pretty early on?
So I think my dad and I both have a vision. Once we stick to our vision, we're always going to strive for the best. And that was his vision when I lived in Manhattan. He said, I'm going to open a cigar lounge, because he came to visit me in New York. He's like, you know what? People love cigars. People love bourbon. People love to drink. And I'm going to just pivot from a retail shop for clothing straight to a cigar lounge. And my mom and I were like, are you nuts? Like, nobody's going to come in. And he's like, no, I have a vision. We're going to stick to this, and people are going to come in. The beauty of Huntsville back then, and still now, everybody travels from all over the world, including, like you said, DC, New York, Florida. They're all here for government contractor work, as well as like working at the Arsenal. So we already had people that were smoking from other cities to come down here and visit. And the fact that we're so close to the Arsenal made it easy for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, like it kind of, I would assume, did most of the marketing for you, because when people were coming in, especially if they knew they're having a colleague come in from out of town and they know that they like cigars, well, let's just go to someplace right off of Gate 9 and go get a cigar after work. It's the convenience factor that worked really well. And honestly, I mean, even in the last few years, with more and more things coming to Huntsville for the Arsenal, the FBI, whatever it might be, a lot of these people that were just traveling here for work are now living here, and so then they maybe were a patron of Vintage Cigar Lounge as just a, hey, I'm in town for work. Now they're actually like, I've been a resident here for 5 or 6 years now, and they've been able to see you kind of grow over that time. One thing I thought was pretty interesting is the structure that you have it set up for the Vintage Cigar Lounge. Talk a little bit about the memberships and the different tiers and kind of the experience that somebody that maybe is listening or watching that hasn't been there, what can they kind of expect?
Yeah, so there's different options when you come in. You can be a patron just to buy cigars and leave. You can also sit at the bar, smoke and drink, or if you want to be in a private space and a luxurious space, that's where the lounge comes in. The memberships are different tiers, like you mentioned. We do an annual membership. We also do corporate memberships. So if people are like traveling in for work and they have, let's say, a president here, but then they also want to add their CEO or whoever else to it, they can tag it along.
Okay.
And they can actually get a locker where they store their cigars.
Wow.
Because we have a liquor license, we don't let you store any alcohol because you have to buy it from us. But storing a cigar box that you buy from us, and you have over 5,000 cigars to choose from, and a lot of them are exclusive. You're not going to find them that many places. We've been blessed to have the inventory that we have because we've been in business for so long that when people come in, they're like, oh my God, this is so rare. Like, how did you even
I've never seen this before. I've never seen that, or I only saw that one time in X state, but I've never seen this in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And so that I would assume that transition too, from just being wine to now being a cocktail bar, really probably expanded your clientele list too. Because I mean, when most people think of cigars, they think of having, maybe a bourbon or a scotch or whatever with it, or some sort of cocktail.
Yeah.
And so that transition probably opened the door to, did you see more and more people that maybe hadn't come to Vintage Cigar Lounge start to come once you made that transition to being a full cocktail bar?
Certainly, because before we were just wine and beer, and a lot of people were getting into bourbon. And now, like you mentioned, so many people love a cocktail, and they also love pairing it with whiskey. And the bourbon culture is getting bigger and bigger by the day.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to, try something that's exclusive, that's rare, that's allocated. And again, we have almost 200 plus different types of whiskeys to choose from. So we're constantly making sure that those items are available for our guests. So when they come in, they're like, you know what, I want to try that in a cocktail. Well, great. Let's make it a classic cocktail. We started off as a pure mixology bar. And then we realized that the cigar smoker is very classic. All things classic. They want bourbon on the rocks, or they want Scotch neat, or they just want an old fashioned, because creatures of habit are what cigar smokers are.
Yeah.
I smoke a different cigar every single day, but I want to try new things. I want to try a new cocktail. I want to try.
And kind of in the role you are too, you want to be able to educate the customer as they come in. So you kind of have to try a little bit of everything.
Exactly.
Have you always, were you always a cigar smoker? Was that something that you always enjoyed? Was that something your dad always enjoyed and you kind of had that relationship? Or as the business has grown and you've gotten back into it, you've kind of acquired that taste of enjoying a good cigar?
I've always been a wine drinker. And then as soon as we opened the business, my dad and I became cigar smokers.
Okay.
We don't open businesses because we love the product. We want to be successful in what a consumer wants. We're always looking out for the consumer. So we knew the consumer wants a cigar lounge, so we're going to open it.
Yeah, but y'all had no, not pre-knowledge of really cigars or anything like that.
We smoked them rarely.
Yeah.
And then once we opened the business, every single day is a new cigar, and we smoked and smoked and smoked. And I drink pretty much every whiskey that there is out there.
That's awesome.
Because I need to know what my products are.
Yeah, and what pairs well with each other. And I mean, I think it's such an interesting thing that, when you made that move back here 9.5 years ago, you said, it seems like in that 9.5 years, you've really, you devoted a lot of your time and effort into what this is going on and really educating yourself as the industry expert.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's incredible. How has the collection of what you've been able to, I mean, we talked a lot about the offerings of, switching from wine and beer to cocktails and becoming that cocktail bar with cigars, and cigars always being a part of it. How has the collection and the assortment of cigars grown too, as far as, when you first opened, what were you able to get sort of like, in the volume you were able to get versus now, what are you able to actually source and find?
So my dad is a cigar expert. He handles every single thing about cigars, and he is a research king. So he speaks to all the reps. He's like, listen, I need X, Y, and Z. And we actually get all of them directly from the manufacturer. We don't source from a third party. It's direct from the manufacturer, because you have to be in business for X amount of years for actually getting those items.
Yeah.
So every year there's a new cigar out by every single company, not just one, maybe 100. And we try our very best to get at least 10% of it.
Wow.
You can imagine the humidor is piling up every single day. But as consumers, they want the next best thing and the next best thing. So the classics always stay, and then the new things always come out. And we have to keep up with the trends, just like the bourbon world, the cigar world. And we're happy to say we actually probably have the largest collection, higher end, lower end, even like your everyday cigar. And we want to cater to every single person, the novice, the aficionado. And then now we're starting to, for the novice that don't know anything about cigars, we've started doing classes where it's like the art of pairing cigars.
That's cool.
Pairing them with whiskey. You don't know about it? Let's show you how to cut, how to light, how to drink it with the whiskey, how to dip it in the whiskey. And education is so important in such a niche market, because you don't want to just pop on a cigar and just say, I tried it. There's art behind it. When you're having a glass of wine, they ask you to swirl it. They want you to sniff it. Same thing, cigars, whiskey, it's all of that. I think I just love the education part of the business, and I want people to have the right tools to do that. And they should understand, like, why am I smoking this?
Yeah.
It's not
like what makes this like different, or like what should I be experiencing? Like, I think that the educational element of it, especially with bourbon and cigars, it's, you're trying to outline a little bit about what the experience should be,
Yeah.
but then also the experience for everybody doing it is a little different. But if they have this idea of like, here's kind of the tasting notes, or here's the nuances that you'll experience, and then they're able to then experience, they at least have some like a sort of an understanding prior to what it is they're actually doing. So these courses and these classes that you've started doing, these are open to the public, open to anybody?
Open to the public,
Okay.
yeah. You buy tickets for it. We've been doing classes for almost like 8 years now. We started with cocktail classes, and then I started in 2020 when people didn't really want to go out and they were afraid to. I started doing like women with cigars, the art of pairing, because they wanted to get into it.
Yeah.
But they were afraid to go to a cigar lounge that's just male related, right? And there's no females working there. So I wanted to start this class for women. It's like, come here, let me help you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here all the time. I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel like it's a safe space and not just a space where guys go to hang out. You know, it's not just like a dive bar. It's a lounge. It's luxury. You can come in and feel comfortable. Sit here by yourself. I sit and smoke by myself every day. I mean, that's my job. But at the same time, even if I'm traveling, I am going to a cigar lounge.
Right.
I am sitting by myself.
So as that, that habit of now doing that when you travel is something that would assume just kind of started as you've dove back into the business. So now when you're out and about and you're traveling across the country or wherever it might be, you're always trying to find these different places and kind of experiencing it for yourself. And I think that's the unique thing is like, I like cigars, not educated in it, not really they don't know the nuances nearly as much. But it is one of those, like, I love bourbon and I've loved learning in that realm. And I feel like most bourbon, experts or people that enjoy bourbon, the transition to cigars is a good transition because it is sort of that educational element of it that many people like. And like, I like it myself to like learn and make sure I understand all the different things about it. As we were sitting here in 2025 and the business is, 16 plus years old now, you've kind of created this presence here in Huntsville that people are, you're a name that everyone knows. You're a name. You're continuing to find more people that probably didn't know you existed even today. What is sort of the goals in the future for the Cigar Lounge as we were kind of transitioning into 2025? Is there any, other expansions within that realm? I know we're going to talk a little bit about a new project that you just opened about 4.5 months ago, but for the Cigar Lounge, is there any sort of growth or what can people expect to see maybe this year?
So we've actually already expanded.
Okay.
We expanded in the Virginia area. We are loyal to our customers that come from DC and Virginia. As you can imagine, everyone is down here for the FBI or whatever project they have going on with the government. So these customers continue to come to us month after month after month. And a lot of them live in the DC, Virginia area, and they travel to Virginia Beach or Cape Charles. So last year, we partnered up with a distillery in Virginia. It's called Cape Charles Distillery, and we opened a little mini vintage cigar lounge there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we have cigars there. There's a lounge on the second floor. People are by the water. People that live in D.C. go out there, and they're like, wait a minute. What is Vintage Cigar Lounge doing here in Virginia? We're like, we relate to the consumers, and we know what they want. So that's our newest expansion that we've had.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So how was that as you got ready for that partnership and opening up that location? What was your time like split between getting that open and then also running and operating? And like, was it a lot of travel between?
2024 has been a whirlwind. We decided that this is the year that we want to expand and basically take our business to another level and also open a brand new child, and which is what we did with Nitro Tails.
Yeah, and Nitro Tails is, how quickly was that process of getting it together? Because it opened as end of 2024.
Yeah.
What was that? Did it take a year prior, or was it a really quick like, hey, we want to do this, we're ready to go? 2024 is going to be our year, and you just went all in on making this happen.
Well, we focused initially with the Virginia location because that was like we had to open it by May.
Okay.
And because the distillery was being remodeled and all of that. So we're like, okay, that's number one focus. But then in the meantime, while we were here in Huntsville, we did everything for Nitro Tails in 9 months. From the day that we got the space until the day of opening, 9 months. And I always joke about it. It's like I had a baby, you know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
9 months.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is that Nitro Tails didn't just grow overnight. It was a 5-year process of getting Nitro Tails up and running.
Interesting. The whole process for Nitro Tails, you know, it was a 9-month process to get it open, which is crazy how quickly. But it's, you know, the journey was 5+ years, which is, I mean, it's incredible to see how quickly y'all have been able to adapt. And like I said, 2024 was a pretty busy year.
Very busy.
You did a lot of the different things. You were all over the place. We're actually going to do a full episode talking about Nitro Tails. So if you're listening to this and you want to find out more, no, we haven't really given you too much about it, but you can check out that other episode. But before we kind of finish this episode, where can people find out more about Vintage Cigar Lounge? Where's your location? What's the website? What's all the social media links that people can find out more?
Yeah, so our website is vintage-cigarlounge.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram. You can even find us at Bridge Street. We've been there over 16 and a half years, a staple there, right around the corner from the Great American Cookies. So if you're feeling a little cookie with your cigar, you know, you can hang out there.
Awesome.
But yeah, Bridge Street is where we're located and very close to Gate 9.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to have all the information in the episode notes. So if anyone wants to find out more information, find links to Vintage Cigar Lounge, that'll all be there. And then we'll also have the link to the Nitro Tails episode. So if you're listening to this and Nitro Tails is out, go over and check out that episode next. But I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Beyond Rockets. Don't forget you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen and on YouTube at Beyond Rockets. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Beyond Rockets to stay up to date with new episodes as they are released. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.